One mind, people. This is Addy Ads. Atkin. I'm going to do a review, as I said, of the documentary called Conspiracy of Silence. And if anybody wants to check it out, I put the link in the description. I finally figured out how to put links in and make them work because I noticed with my playlist links, they weren't working. And what happens is I have to every time I make a video, I have to copy and paste the entire playlist link for some reason. As opposed to the other ones, I don't have to do that. So I don't know why that is. But if anybody wants to check out the documentary, I put it in the description box. But it's a documentary that I have been wanting to watch for a while. And interesting backstory on it is, here, that's way better. Okay. Oh, that's a little annoying, my bad. But interesting backstory is it was supposed to air, I believe it was 1995. Don't quote me on that, but it was the mid 90s on the Discovery Channel. And the producers of it were actually British. So people from the United Kingdom flew to Omaha, Nebraska and researched this and published the documentary, or was supposed to be published on Discovery Channel. The Congress pulled it, and despite that, it still got out on the internet, which is great. There are clips in the documentary that are cut out, and whoever put it together just can't find it. It just says clip missing. So it's mostly there as far as I can tell. There's only a few sections where you can't see the clips, but it's a really fascinating story, and it's about the Franklin scandal. And I'm actually interviewing the author of the book called The Franklin Scandal, as well as another book called DC Madam, Nick Bryant, very soon. As soon as I finish his book, I am going to interview him, and we're going to talk about Epstein. And this guy was actually the first guy who had his black book, believe it or not. So this guy's he's a big time power player in the realm of people who hunt pedophiles and corruption. And so this documentary is about what happened in Omaha, Nebraska in the 80s with this man called Lawrence E. King. He was a black man. Usually I would say gentleman, but this guy was a fucking psycho. And he used to be a Democrat. And he switched to the Republican Party and rose very, very high, very, very quickly. Why? Because he was a pedophile. But it's not that simple. He also worked at the Franklin Credit Union, which is now defunct. It was shut down by the FBI because he embezzled and stole $40 million from the credit union, in addition to being a pimp of children. So he was similar to Epstein in that sense. That is much better. I need a sip. And so he was the pimp, was Lawrence E. King. How he got recruited, I don't know. I want to ask Nick Bryant that. I also want to ask him about how Epstein got recruited. But I think that's a little besides the point. It's just a matter of great interest to me. So he preyed and plundered, basically fed upon the Boys Town orphanage, which is in Omaha, Nebraska. And this is where he basically got most of his victims, was Omaha, Nebraska, Boys Town orphanage. And there are girls who are orphans there. I think at the time it was just boys. And I actually didn't, believe it or not, know what Boys Town was until I came to knowledge of this particular scandal. So Boys Town is basically as far as I can tell, the most respected orphanage in the United States. So he preyed upon these boys, and he would pander them to rich and powerful politicians. And not just in Nebraska, he would also fly them to Washington, D.C. and California as well, if I can remember from the book. It was either Cali or Hawaii, I can't recall. And this guy, Gary Caradori, he was the principal investigator. This guy he's kind of like the MVP investigator, the star player as far as the private investigation went on this particular case. He ended up dying along with his son in a plane crash, which happened under very questionable circumstances, shall we say. And this actually happened to quite a few people involved in this case. And the documentary, I think that's a great thing about documentaries, is it doesn't just give the facts. And I mentioned this a couple of days ago when I reviewed Filthy Rich, the documentary that's on Netflix right now about Jeffrey Epstein. It brings you into the subjective and human experience of the people who are connected to the case. So it's not just the facts, right? The cold hard facts. You get the emotions behind the people involved, whoever it is that they were interviewing. And another thing I noticed, which was quite superficial, is Paul Bonacci and his name is Troy Bonner. I don't know if it's Bonner or Boner, but they're both quite handsome. Don't think that was a coincidence. I'm guessing they picked whoever they wanted, I guess, as far as which orphans they chose to prey upon. But it could be just whoever they selected was the easiest, the most trusting as well. But I will explore that further in Nick's book. And this documentary is an hour long, and it interviews lots of people involved, mostly the victims. There's no statements from the FBI or anything like that, which is, I think, to be expected. Troy talks about how he's still addicted at the time of the filming. He's still addicted to heroin. That was his drug of choice. He said at these parties, they would give the child victims pretty much any choice of drugs they wanted. And this Lawrence E. King guy, he's still out there as far as I know somewhere. But fantastic interview. I think everyone should check it out. It has about 250,000 views right now. And one of the comments I noticed was, our country has 300 million people and only 48,000 know the truth. So whoever wrote that comment wrote it at a time when there was 48,000 views on the video. It has since quintupled. And I don't see it slowing down anytime soon. We are building up steam with this, and it's a collective team effort, I think, for sure. So I would just recommend people go check it out. Again, it's a dark topic for anybody who's not familiar. It's about child prostitution, child trafficking, and the abuse, systematic abuse of children covered up by the Federal Bureau of Investigation and indirectly the Central Intelligence Agency as well. Additionally, the Nebraska State Patrol, and Nick talks about this as well in his book, but I'm talking about the documentary. They do mention the State Patrol as well and how they were corrupt. And a big character, I shouldn't say character because he's a real person, but a figure in this particular documentary is John DeCamp. And he was the lawyer for one of the victims, the principal lawyer. And this guy was tenaciously pursuing justice in this case. seems like a good man, and they interview him quite a bit. So that's another guy they interview besides the victims as well. So that being said, I just recommend people go check it out. Conspiracy to Silence. I couldn't tell you the director's name, but it was made by Brits in the United States. The Discovery Channel was going to release it. Congress put a next on that, and it was never released. Despite that, it made its way to the internet, and it's right now about at 250,000 views. So let's get those views up. And yeah, just watch it when you have a chance. So that was my review of Conspiracy of Silence, the documentary about child trafficking and prostitution in Omaha, Nebraska.